Hey, good morning, everybody. Let me just finish up here getting these marbles in this jar. There's probably a joke here somewhere about losing my marbles, but I'll still do that. Give me just a moment. All right, I'll fill you in on that in just a bit. But hey, welcome back to another round of Parent Link Live. It's good to have you with us this morning as part of our Family Cafe Live worship service. As we do each month, this is a time for me to share a few thoughts that hopefully will help us combine the resources of the church with parents to help parents do the best job possible of raising kids who are going to be lifelong disciples of Jesus Christ. This morning, our big theme that I want us to focus on is the idea that scarcity increases value. And we see that in lots of different places. Those of you who are fans of Apple products, we see it every time Apple comes out with a new phone or a new version of their iPad. People are lining up around the block to try to get in because they're scarce. You want to get in there to get the first one. Scarcity increases value. Or I think about a story that I once heard about a guy who was a stamp collector, wanted very valuable, rare stamps, and he had his eye on a particular stamp from the World War II era. He already had one, and he found out that the second stamp was in existence. And so he worked hard to find who the owner was, corresponded with the owner of that one other rare stamp, finally made arrangements to purchase that stamp. And when it arrived at his home, you want to guess what he did? He took that second stamp, one of only two in the world, and he burned it. The reason? Because the moment he did that, his became the only last existing stamp, and the value for that one shot up enormously. Well, it's not just goods that are rare, not just iPads and iPods or stamps, but we as parents also have a very scarce resource that we need to take advantage of. You probably guessed what that is. It's the time that we have with each one of our children, the time that God has given us to invest and to spend with them. The time that we have to help raise them up to be followers of Christ. And that's where the marbles come in. Several years ago, at North Point Community Church in Atlanta, Georgia, the leadership there handed out jars of marbles to every family that came to the worship services that weekend. And there was one jar of marbles for every child that was in that family's home. And there were enough marbles in each jar to represent the number of weeks, or weekends is how they determined it, that were left approximately for that child to still be under their parents' roof. So for example, there were 468 marbles for the fourth graders, 364 marbles for the sixth graders, only 208 marbles for the ninth graders, and just 104 marbles left for those who were in 11th grade. Some of the parents actually went home and got out their calendars and calculated the exact number of weeks that were left for having their kids with them before they went off to college or moved out onto their own. And then they kept their jar of marbles in a very visible place there before the family, before themselves. And each week that went by, they would take out a marble. So they had a visual reminder of the decreasing amount of time that they had left to still be the primary influencers with their kids. Again, scarcity increases value. Personally, as a parent looking forward, it's pretty easy to take for granted the amount of time that I still have with my kids. I think that's why this marble illustration can be so powerful. It's also a practical way to illustrate just a short verse from Scripture. Let me read for you Psalm 90, verse 12, where we hear these words, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." What if we decided to apply that principle of numbering our days or numbering our weeks to parenting? Perhaps using something like the marbles or some other tangible way to give us a countdown to help us see the value, the scarcity of the time that we have left with our kids. The truth is, it could help us to be much wiser parents. Why? Because knowing the number of the days that our kids are left at home can help us to be much more intentional with the time that we have. We might be more intentional about leaving work early to get home to have time with the family. Maybe more intentional about watching our kids' games or going to their practices or rehearsals or recitals. It might be more intentional about how we spend a Saturday, or intentional about making sure that we get the whole family to worship together in church on a Sunday morning. We might find ourselves being more intentional about helping kids with their homework or tucking them into bed or just making sure that we're eating regularly those family meals as we gather around the table on weeknights. The reality is, today, you and I as parents have got some time, and we need to use it. We've got to leverage the quantity of time that we have to make sure it's also quality time with our kids. When we remember that the days that we have with them are numbered, we'll tend to make a much better plan for each day that we spend with them. So join me, won't you, in this challenge of recognizing that scarcity increases value, and that when it comes to parenting with our kids, the days that we have left are growing scarce. So let's value them and invest in our kids intentionally. Thanks for listening.